Hi, I'm Cathy Ward. I'm a mindfulness teacher and a massage therapist. This is the fourth session in the free series Mindfulness in Difficult Times. In this session, I talk about my first step in beating that feeling of isolation that happened in a difficult and desperate time in my life. For a moment, I just want to think about some of the emotional blocks I see that stop and hinder people from making that deep connection with others. That connection that creates a bond, makes people feel like they're never alone, connects and supports, and brings a sense of wholeness and gives them a warm sense of togetherness and safety. Some of those blocks are so subtle. Others are things that we feel we have a right to hold in our lives. Maybe because something happened in our lives, but we're unaware of the damage that right is leaving in its wake. There are unhealthy habitual thought patterns that have gained momentum in our life, maybe over many years. Maybe a culture of living that we've been brought up in. Small ways of thinking handed down through generations. A small seed planted in our lives years ago that has developed into a whole family forest. We talk about healthy living, and we've talked about healthy living in our country for many years as healthy eating and healthy exercise. And to succeed in both takes self-discipline. Not always eating what we want. Having that commitment to exercise regularly, not just when we feel like it, but when we don't feel like it as well. But we have failed to talk about healthy living as good mental health. Do you think that we will need self-discipline? What are the tools and practices of good mental health? Well, I believe that we were never designed to live in isolation. But how do we safely let people in? Have you ever heard someone talk about how they can feel lonely and alone, even in a room full of people? Do you feel like sometimes others don't get you and don't understand you? No one sees how hard it is for you. With the COVID-19 hitting our country, has it made you feel more isolated? In difficult times, do you feel alone in the situation? I find it interesting because often when people feel like this, they tend to blame others, to see others as the problem. And sometimes there is an element of truth in it. There can be an in crowd and cliques, and sometimes there are people that think they're a little bit more elite than the rest of us. We can feel cut off and on the edge of our community. But remember this, that there is always a price to be seen as in these groups. It's like that image of the swan gracefully gliding over the water, but their feet are going like the clappers underneath. With these sorts of groups, you need to make yourself fit in, say the right things, hang out in the right places, go to the right places, do the right things, everything but be the person that you were created to be. I think that I was a late developer in understanding all this. But, do many of us struggle late on in life with these issues and these things? The in crowd can be struggling as much being in as the out crowd can be struggling to be out. Maybe sometimes the in crowd people can get to 40 and realise they've been so busy trying to fit in all their lives that they've never truly been themselves. Then we can have those 20 people that love us and the one person that doesn't like us. But the words of that one person that doesn't like us just seem so much louder than all the 20 who think we're amazing. it can seem a little bit like school playground stuff, but how much of this is following us into adulthood? But here is our first and biggest learn. Whatever blocks your ability to connect with others, and it might be linked to something I've just talked about, and maybe it's something totally different. But in blaming others or in seeing others as the problem, we actually give away all our power to see change. It leaves us feeling helpless. It says we can't change the situation, but someone else can. What can I do? I feel like this because of someone else. It leaves us powerless to bring the change that we need to see. I can remember when this thinking hit my life. Something so difficult had happened in my world, and all I had worked for started to just fall apart around me. The pain was nearly unbearable, and it was out of my control. I'd get out of bed in the morning and there was this huge elephant in the room, and this elephant was called pain. It was so big it took all the space, and there was I crushed up in the corner. No one talked about it, no one got it. Everyone could see it, and I think people had an opinion on it. But I was alone, and I felt truly alone. You know, at that point I was training to be a mindfulness teacher, but at that point there was nothing mindful about me at all. I was like a wild bear stuck in a bear trap. I had my final assessment to teach in 3 months' time, and I knew I would never pass it feeling like this. And in despair, I turned the pages in my notes thinking, what shall I study this week? And there at the top of the page was one word: kindness. You know, but I really didn't feel kind. I felt wild. I was studying, but nothing was going in. So I just decided to do a mindfulness practice every day. What a great idea for a mindfulness teacher. But in my pain, I learnt the most. In the past, I'd always thought of myself as a kind person. And when learning how to do this practice, I was always told to focus on someone I found easy to be kind to. But I always wanted to work on something a bit more challenging, so I generally chose a challenge. Actually, no, I always chose a challenge, but there you go. But this day, my feelings were out of control and everything about me was sunk. You know, I felt a cop-out, but I decided to focus on someone I found really easy to be kind to. You know, I felt, what am I going to learn taking the easy option? All these people I'm angry with and hurting and blaming, all these people that had hurt me. And I was choosing the easiest person to practice being kind to. But it took all that was left in me to keep going. So that's what I did. I chose the easiest of all the people in my life. And the first day, you know, I was quite surprised. I did feel slightly different, but by the end of the week, I felt different. I felt very different. And I kept going. And it was like in my squashed up corner in the room, there was one tiny seed. And I was cultivating that seed of kindness in my life, feeding it, watering it, giving it attention. But then when I turned round to look at the rest of my life, I was looking through the lens of kindness. It had changed me in the situation. Somehow in the middle of all that pain, I'd managed to tap into that deep sense of kindness and natural flow in my life. It had changed my perspective, and it had changed where I viewed life from. It had changed me in the situation. It didn't change my situation, and years on, even today, I still live with the consequences of what happened in that time in my life. We're still taking one step at a time to rebuild. But cultivating kindness in my life helped me connect with the people close to me. It created a bond, even when we weren't physically close. It put the focus on the overwhelming goodness in my life and made it bigger than the overwhelming pain. It changed my perspective and connected me to the people that really wanted to support me. It was focusing me on the people closest to me, noticing the people I found easy to connect to, the people that made me feel whole, meant that I removed that deep sense of isolation. You know, wherever you are in your life today, I invite you to have a go. Be consistent in it. Take your journey of learning. You know, it'll be different to mine. I've told you my story, but what's your story? Where will cultivating kindness take you? Will it change your perspective? Be curious about the link between kindness and wishing people well, and connecting with people in a deep, meaningful way. Be curious about it. Observe it. Notice it. The truth that I believe is the change has to come from within us, not from within others. So wherever you are in your life, give it a go and see where it takes you. The meditations are below. There's a long one and a shorter one. So take care, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Take care. See you.